picture hookup right now, Jim. However, we do have your voice, so what
Okay.
they might do is just...
We're not going to use a picture?
Well, we don't know for sure. We're trying. So what we're going to...
Phone your doctor or get to a hospital emergency room immediately. The BC Heart Foundation wants you to know the facts. Please, give from the heart.
BCTV, our best show.
Good morning. It seems that I set the cat among the pigeons with my interview with Sven Robinson, the NDP MP for Burnaby, in which he was giving me what he said was the federal policy on decriminalization of the solicitation of prostitution. And it came out as clear as a bell from Sven Robinson that with the decriminalization of soliciting, and as he said, the sale of sex in private, and the removal of the body house section of the criminal code, and if necessary the establishment of places perhaps even in warehouse districts, that this was federal NDP policy for red light districts. Later I interviewed Mark Rose, the NDP MP for Fraser Valley West, and Mark gave me perhaps a more accurate description of the NDP position, which was lined up in caucus so that, Mark tells me, if it came up in justice, the position would be that the NDP they're in favour of decriminalisation of solicitation, but would consider the removal of the body house section of the criminal code. Well, after the storm on my programme, the federal NDP caucus met in Ottawa yesterday, and although Mr. Robinson was not there, they unanimously passed the following resolution. The federal NDP caucus believes that prostitution degrades both men and women, and therefore we, the federal NDP caucus, is opposed to its practice and opposed to the establishment of any districts or institutions that are specifically designated for the purpose of prostitution. Well, perhaps the Robinson interview was a good thing, because there could be no misinterpretation of my particular fairly heavy questioning of Mr. Robinson. But when it comes to accepting anything in the way of a red light district or prostitution per se as a good social thing, the federal NDP caucus, and let me give you that again, unanimously said yesterday that they believe that prostitution degrades both men and women, and therefore it is opposed to its practice and opposed to the establishment of any districts or institutions that are specifically designated for the purpose of prostitution. I am not surprised by that somewhat forthright and sharp action by the NDP caucus. Now, in the course of a telephone segment of my follow-up after speaking to Mark Rose, I said to a caller, what it means is that both Mark Rose and Sven Robinson agree with the continued legal degradation of women in prostitution. Well, that perhaps was not quite fair, because there's no way Mark Rose, to whom I have spoken, believes in any form of degradation of women. So there you have it, Mark. I've clarified your position, and perhaps I pushed it a little far. Obviously, you don't believe in the degradation of women, and neither do I, or does anybody else who is sane and in touch with the problems in the city of Vancouver. Next step, however, is up to the NDP. I'm sure when Mr. Robinson returns to the caucus that the NDP, and this is my prediction or speculation if you like, will now re-examine the guidance that was given to Robinson, which it would seem he obviously misunderstood, and which under questioning came out in a very simple, straightforward manner, which obviously to me from the beginning would not be acceptable to a political party in this country. That's point number one. Point number two. In Victoria this morning I have the Minister of Health, James Nielsen, and I'm going to ask Jimmy why he's got his scalpel out for the doctors. In the studio in Vancouver today I have a man who wants to give away money. Well, you know, as usual, I'm pushing it a little bit. He is David McGann, the Executive Director of the Vancouver Foundation, an organization about which people in this province do not know enough. And then there's a mystery man on this morning. His name is Maurice Gibson, and he's a doctor. And he's been hanging around this studio now for 3 or 4 weeks. And Maurice, who's here in spirit, on tape and not in flesh, on my word of honor, if it's the last thing I do, I'll use the interview with Maurice Gibson this morning. But first, to Victoria, the Minister of Health, and Jimmy Nielsen after the break. Good morning, Mr. Nielsen.
Good morning, Jack.
I thought that when the doctors agreed to the $30 million payback, that everything would all be sweetness and light, but you're obviously disappointed by the additional money you're paying in 81-82 under MSP. How much more than you planned?
Well, Jack, the period that we've examined is from April 1 to September 30th for 1982.
Right.
And it's up somewhat more than we had anticipated. We expected there would be about perhaps a 25% increase in overall costs. It's closer to 30. We are somewhat surprised. The number of services provided by physicians under our plan for that period of 6 months increased by about 1 million from the previous year, April 1 to September 30th, 1981.
You mean 1 million extra visits, 1 million extra office procedures, 1 million extra testings and that kind of thing?
We had 14,702,000 for that 6 months in 1981. It's up to 15,733,000 for the same period in 1982. And that's reflected against a population increase of about 1.4%.
Are you suggesting that the doctors are milking the scheme?
No, I don't think they're milking the scheme. There could be a number of reasons why there's been a greater utilization of the service, and some of the people in the Medical Services Commission are trying to put their finger on it. Demographics could play a role in it. There could be other reasons for it. We're just compiling raw numbers. It's impossible to reach any conclusions.
Could that not be because of your cutback in hospital services, the closure of some beds, the restrictions of operating whereby the doctors are forced to do many more procedures in their offices?
That could be a contributing factor, although they're not forced to do them in their offices. They're capable of doing them in their offices, and that probably makes very good sense to do them in their offices where it's possible.
Now, does the 30 million roll back? Is that now too small an amount in view of the increase of the million services, which might be God knows how much? Are you sorry now that you didn't go for a larger figure?
No, I think the amount of money was a reasonable request, and I think the doctors indicated that they feel they have a role to play in the restraint program by agreeing to reduce that amount by about $30 million or whatever the final figure is. And I think it was a very reasonable request at that time. The doctors, along with other people, had settled for a very generous amount in the previous negotiations.
Yeah, they got, what was it, 40% over 2 years or something?
Just under 40% over that 2-year period.
Now, does that mean a number of doctors, and it's no secret, are quite mad at you because they feel that the Blue Book figures and your comprehensive study into why so many doctors made so much more money this year is a straight piece of negotiating blackmail, that you're trying to push them back into the corner? Is there not a smidgen of truth in that?
No, the Blue Book is released on a regular basis. It's a statutory requirement. And naturally, once these figures are released, there's going to be questions asked by members of the media as to what it really means. We emphasize right in the publication that we're dealing with gross figures. We emphasize that overhead must be paid and so on. It's a financial statement required under the Financial Reporting Act, and it can mean whatever anyone wants it to mean.
Mind you, it does list about 20 doctors with more than $300,000, but I was talking to one yesterday who said it's totally unfair because he splits that not only with his staff, but with 2 other partners.
Well, if it's a partnership, it would probably be listed as a partnership. But we have instances of individual physicians who are in that category, and as far as we know, it's not a partnership. Of course they pay their staff. You're paid a salary, and it's a gross salary, whatever your costs or expenses are from that. So the taxpayer, through the medical services plan, is paying out dollars. Now, they're gross dollars to the recipient, of course, but they're net dollars to us in paying it out.
Now, what really staggered me was some of the dentists who went from $80,000 to $300,000. Was that because of the free dentures for everybody 65 and over?
Well, I would think there's probably no doubt it was the results of the Dentacare program.
And that was why you had to kill that particular feature of Dentacare, was it not?
Dentacare, Jack, the one full year of operation was about $82 million. And we just got to the point where we simply could not afford it and maintain other, what we considered more important health services.
In other words, you misjudged that, and it became a bit of a free service for people who could well afford to buy their own false teeth.
Many of them probably couldn't, but they probably simply wouldn't. When they became available, it's, as any scheme is, where it is conceived to be free or believed to be free, there's a tremendous demand for it.
Are you telling the doctors now that in the negotiations which start Friday, there will be no increase above the reduced levels for 81, 82?
No, the negotiators will be meeting with the BCMA negotiators, and I'm sure they'll probably each put a proposal forward, but I'm not involved in the negotiating.
But I mean, you're Minister of Health, and you know with a $1 billion deficit, which we're told about, there can't be any more money for doctors next year, can there?
I think the doctors fully appreciate the financial situation in the province, and it may sound self-serving, but I think they're going to be very cooperative.
Very cooperative.
They have been for the past while. The BCMA representatives, the College of Physicians and Surgeons, we've had excellent cooperation from the medical profession in the last year. Really very, very good cooperation.
But will you be negotiating on a base rate of 1981-82 less the 7% which they pay back over the last 7 months of the contract?
No, the base rate will be retained as it actually is.
So you'll be negotiating on the normal base rate. In other words, you'll ignore the $30 million payback, and they'll start at their full base rate in negotiations this year.
That figure would be what the base rate would be considered, yes.
It's going to be tough, though, Mr. Nielsen, isn't it?
Sure, it's going to be tough.
Are you going to ask them to take a cut next year?
Well, Jack, I'm not negotiating with them. I certainly wouldn't negotiate over the air.
No.
But we have a team of negotiators. They'll meet with theirs, and I've had some preliminary discussions with some people in the profession, and they've indicated that they're very much aware of the reality of the day.
Well, health budget last year was what, $1.6 billion?
$2.5 billion.
I lost $1 billion.
You lost $1 billion.
$2.5 billion.
It's about it would be close to $900 per capita per year. It's becoming a very, very...
Will you be considering any form of deterrent fees next year to give the doctor, what they call it, balance billing?
No.
That's out.
Balance billing is out.
Extra billing is out.
Extra billing is out.
But you may well ask them, are you asking the doctors to hold the line as is on their contract before the reduction?
I think what we basically will ask the doctors to do is to continue to show the discipline they have and the responsibility in their leadership role in our society.
Right, one last disassociated question, Mr. Nielsen. There seems to be a real muck-up in this detox center where virtually it's non-operational. Now, you had a hiring freeze. Is that detox center just a disaster because you can't lock the patients in and you can't control them and you don't have the right staff?
Jack, I don't know all the details of it. There is no hiring freeze for the staff at the detox center. There was a hiring freeze, if you like, some time back, but all of the positions have been approved. At one time, we understand that we had 1/3 of the staff off for personal medical health reasons or whatever it was, and it caused a shortage. We had inadequate complete list of spares. There weren't enough people that we could call on for the emergency situation.
Because you think with a couple of 100,000 unemployed, you'd be able to find the right people.
I think we have the right people now. We're in the process of getting the right people. The other night, I understand, someone suggested there was no more room because a staff member became ill and had to go home. But I spoke with John Russell, and he assures me that it's well under control and functioning quite well.
Yeah, it won't be closed 15 times next month as it was 15 times last month.
Well, it better not be.
Well, that's what happened last month.
Yeah.
It came out at an inquest.
Well, the...
Maybe you should hand the whole thing over to the police.
Well, that gets into what you're dealing with, I guess, because the police indicated in very strong terms that they didn't feel their role was handling people who were intoxicated.
That's right, and of course the weakness in that detox center is that you can't make people stay. If they want to get up and stagger out, they can go.
What you can do, the best thing you can really do, is offer them a reasonably high standard of care for the period of time they're in Europe.
Okay, good wishes on that, and best of luck with the doctors who are very suspicious that you're starting a propaganda campaign to put the boots to them.
You've been speaking to the wrong doctors, Jack. You're speaking to probably some of your personal friends who might be not paying close attention to what really is going on.
I ain't got no friends. Thank you
That's
very
true.
much.
Forgot about that.
Thanks very much,
Thanks,
Jim
Jack.
Nielsen. Bye, bye. Something went wrong. We didn't have his picture this morning. That's beside the point. He has a good, deep, resonant voice. Next, we're going to talk to the man with money to give away, Dr. David McGann of the Vancouver Foundation. If you asked a couple of dozen people on the streets of British Columbia, or streets of Vancouver, if they'd ever heard of the Vancouver Foundation, they would say, yes, I've heard about it. Keeps a fairly low profile. It is a philanthropic organization. It is one of the largest and most efficient on the continent, without any shadow of doubt. I've done programs on them before. They're not people who seek publicity. Here, however, is David McGann, the executive director of the Vancouver Foundation. How much money has the foundation got as its base in its genes?
Approximately $110 million.
$110 million. Where did you get that money?
Well, the great majority of it came from gifts and bequests. People in the province who had, for the most part, made their money here, were concerned about the future of the province and left their money to the, or part of their money to the foundation to be used for purposes that they saw as important in the future of the province.
Social purposes of all kinds.
Social, cultural, educational, we do all sorts of things.
Artistic, research, the lot.
The lot.
Tell me about Alice. Who was Alice and how come she's involved in the founding of the Vancouver Foundation?
Well, in 1943, a Scots lady, an elderly spinster, left $1,000 to what was then called the, I think it was called the Vancouver Welfare League, as a bequest in her will, and the organization had never had anything like that before, and they weren't sure what to do with this bequest, so they set up a small committee, and fortunately it was headed by Mr. W.J. Van Dusen, and he saw the potential for endowments. He saw them as a means for protecting organizations and helping them to have the means to do the flexible kinds of activities that many of them want to do.
And it grew from that.
It grew from that. He got 10 of his friends each to put in $10,000, and all of a sudden there was $101,000, and the income grew from the work they did there, and the capital grew, and on it went.
So now you've got $110 million in invested funds.
Yes.
From which you use the interest to give to organizations.
That's correct.
Now, you have an announcement to make today, which I think is a very pleasing one indeed. Now, you've always contributed to the United Way, have you not?
Yes, we have since the first.
How much are you announcing this morning as your contribution to the United Way of the Lower Mainland 1982 campaign?
Well, we'll be sending off a check to them today for approximately $950,000, which includes a special grant of $200,000 in this year in recognition of the emergency situation that exists everywhere, and I think to support the the work that Gordon McFarland and his people have done in trying to protect the community by their fundraising efforts.
And that contribution of the extra 200,000 plus another 7 brings United Way over the top to $8,682,867.
That's what I understand.
Do you find that demands in your organization are greater now than they were before?
No question.
Now, who qualifies? I've got the list here of organizations which have benefited over the years. Everything. I see a figure here for your medical contributions, which is incredible. Cultural, youth, student bursaries, scholarships and awards, religion, education, child welfare, health and welfare. Goes on forever, does it not?
It's a long list.
Let's name drop a little. What was the biggest single donation? By the way, do they mostly come in estate bequests?
Mostly in estate bequests. We have some funds that come to us through gifts in the lifetime of individuals, and actually that's not a bad idea because it gives the person the opportunity to see how we work and what their money does. And we call those advice and consent funds. We have a number of those, not a very large number, but the great bulk of the money comes through bequests.
So you don't go out to the public and ask for money as such at all?
No, we don't do that. We'd be competing with the agencies whom we're trying to help, and you can't help them if you're competing against them. At least we don't feel that way.
What you are really is a fairly quiet, low-key organization which will accept bequests and provide them for the purpose that the donor wants to have.
Yes, about 40% of our donors direct us as to how they'd like to see the income used, whether it's arthritis or mental retardation or what have you. The balance of our donors, about 60% of them, make their bequest to us and leave it to our board to decide how the income is to be used. And frankly, that's the best kind of money to have because conditions change, organizations come and organizations go. But if we have that sort of flexible money left under the direction of our board of directors, well, we can continue to respond to situations as they evolve.
For instance, if somebody wants to give $10,000, a living grant, you might say, of $10,000 to a particular organization in which they happen to have an interest, it might be mental retardation, or it might be a native center somewhere. Will you automatically apply it to that, or will you consider the value of the potential bequest and say, well, now, perhaps you should put it here or there?
Well, if the donor directs us to put it into this organization or that organization, and the organization is registered under the Societies Act of the Province of British Columbia and in receipt of a federal tax exemption number, we'll do that. However, on the other hand, if the individual leaves it to us under terms that we call an advice and consent fund, that is, the funds are placed with us and the donor will, from time to time, advise us as to how he'd like to see the income applied for this activity or that activity. We'll take a look at the activity, if it's an important activity, if it's money to a qualifying organization, that is to say a registered one, as I mentioned before, we'll consent to it and make the disbursement. If it's to an organization that's not qualified or whose work is somewhat questionable in our minds, we'll provide advice that may
but you act
dissuade him.
as proper trustees.
We're trustees.
Trustees for the proper use of the money.
We're
How much did
trustees.
you give away? I've got the figure here, but you tell me. How much did you give away in all, including your $950,000 to the United Way this year, in 1982?
By the time the year is over, we'll have given away approximately $10.5 million.
Just like that?
No, not just like that.
No, but
It's
I mean,
a heck of a job.
It's the figure I'm talking about.
Oh, yes,
The
yes.
$10.5 million.
Yes.
Now, you would like people who can afford it to donate, or to give bequests or donations to the Vancouver Foundation.
We're always pleased to have that happen.
Let's put up the address. Let's put up the address. We got the address?
Yep.
Sure we've got the address.
Sure it is.
I'm certain we've got the address. Vancouver Foundation, Suite 900, 1199 West Pender Street, Vancouver, BC, V6E2R1. We'll put that up after the break too. Do you insist on a minimum amount of money?
Well, to establish an endowment fund
Right.
with us for for an organization to establish an endowment fund with us, there's a minimum requirement of $10,000. That's the initiating capital.
For an endowment fund.
For an endowment fund, yes.
Or in a bequest, of course, people should see the lawyer and make their bequest to the Vancouver Foundation.
They should always see their lawyer.
If they wish to go.
Yeah. Mind you, we're always prepared to receive any amount of money at all. Perhaps it's a memorial gift for this individual or that individual that's directed to, say, cancer or what have you. We have funds that cover those sorts of things, and we're glad to receive any amounts. And we get gifts in memoriam of $5.
Give me your biggest donor, if you can, and one of the biggest ones. I know you've had some big donations over the years.
Yes,
It's not fair to pick out individuals, but just one.
Yeah. Well, we had one of $14 million from the estate of the late Mrs. Van Dusen. We had another one of something on the order of $12 million from another family, Robert Filberg.
Now, are you going to keep the name Vancouver? Mind you, your activities, I can see from this, are all over the province.
That's
I can
correct.
see Victoria, Bella, Bella Coola, every community in the country.
Yes.
You going to keep the name Vancouver?
I don't think there's going to be any change. I can't imagine
But
it.
people should know that the Vancouver Foundation is available for legitimate requests from registered societies with tax exemption numbers for good causes.
Right.
Well, I'll just repeat again, the community chest must be very grateful for the extra 200, giving them close on $1 million this year to put them over the top.
Well, I'll tell you, Jack, we're not so interested in the United Way as such. The United Way is just a mechanism. What we're concerned about are the 84 agencies that are represented by United Way. Those are the people that are on the firing line. Those are the organizations under very trying conditions today that are dealing with an extraordinary load of clients. And those are the people that we're trying to help.
And your income will go down next year because of the fluctuation in interest rates.
Well, it's conceivable that that would happen, but we have a very careful and astute investment committee, and we hope that we can maintain the amount of income that we have and increase it.
So both applicants and potential donors should write to the Vancouver Foundation, 900 1199 West Pender Street, Vancouver, BC. Your administration costs, I know, are extraordinarily low.
2.5% of our annual giving, hardly any more than that.
My thanks to Dr. David McGann, the Executive Director of the Vancouver Foundation. Nice to do a good program, but nice people who do a good job. And I'll be back with that mystery man. What's his name again? Gibson, after the break.
Good.
I was to interview this man a year ago, but I looked at his biography and saw he came from the capital of the universe, and I thought, too much ethnic nonsense on this program, Webster, so shuffle him aside until a quieter time, because we may have difficulty understanding him. Now, look at him. I'm not telling you who he is yet. Yes, I will. His name is Morris Gibson. He's a doctor, and he's really got it made. Until he retired in 1978, the only thing he'd ever written was a prescription, or said to patients, take 2 aspirins, lots of fluids, and plenty of bed rest. After a varied lifetime, this man, Morris Gibson, wrote a book which is endorsed by none other than his former colleague, in a way, not the same thing, but he knew him, James Herriot. And Herriot, like Gibson, is another Scotsman trained in the west of Scotland as a doctor. And the book is called One Man's Medicine. After having looked down my nose at you for a little while, I want you to do something for me. Will you?
Yes, I will, Jack.
Anything I ask within reason.
Within reason.
Well, I understand you have a couple of fields of expertise, apart from medicine. But you're big in hypnosis and you're a great pig farmer. I'm quite prepared to look into your eyes and follow the swinging chain. I want you to hypnotize me, and change my lifestyle. I'm a man of little discipline. Until recently, I smoked heavily, drank coffee, and was known to take a dram. Now, I want you to convince me in front of this vast audience.
I think, Jack, that you would be a very vast challenge for any hypnotist. I have that feeling.
You mean to say the brighter the person is, the more difficult they are to
Oh
hypnotize?
no, the very reverse. The brighter a person is, the more likely they are to be hypnotized. The easier they are. Brighter a person, better the subject for
You're
hypnosis.
accusing me of being dull and therefore not capable of being hypnotized.
No, I am accusing you, I think, of being difficult if you want to be, and I would hate to take up your challenge.
You mean contrary, really?
I think you might be contrary, yes.
Now, you used hypnosis in your practice.
Yes,
This
I
book
did.
is about your life and your practice.
Oh yes, very little about hypnosis in it. Just
One
a little
man's
bit.
medicine.
Yes. It's one man's medicine because my wife said to me, one man's meat's another man's poison. And no doubt some of you in medicine has, so that's...
Now, but just I want to, before we get to the pig farming
Yes.
and Okotoks, there is a place called Okotoks.
No, Okotoks.
Okotoks.
Yes. Englishmen call it Okotoks.
Well, let me be an Englishman just to annoy you for the moment, and I'll call it Okotoks. Now, is there a place in medicine today for hypnosis?
Oh, yes, and it's growing. The field for hypnosis is growing all the time. You see, a few years ago, if you had told a neurophysiologist, a research man in glands, that the brain secreted drugs, he'd throw you out of his laboratory. It was heresy. It's only within a few years that we've discovered there's a group of drugs called the endorphins, actually secreted by the brain. And this is new. I have a theory which would probably get me thrown out of a laboratory right now if I said it, but I wonder if the fact that we can diminish pain or even abolish it under hypnosis isn't the fact that we're stimulating the brain to produce these endorphins, which are stronger than morphine. So there's an enormous place for hypnosis in medicine.
But you used it briefly in your practice at one time for childbirth, did you
Oh, I
not?
didn't use it briefly. I've delivered hundreds of babies using hypnosis. Hundreds.
Now, does that mean prior hypnotic
Yes,
sessions?
yes. Right from the very first time a girl would come to me at 3 months, I would ask her if she wanted it. If she didn't want hypnosis, I wouldn't even suggest it. But if she wanted it, then right there I would explain what hypnosis was, debunk a lot of the rubbish that's written about it and the witchcrafty stuff, explain that it's a normal physiological process. Then I would teach her. I'd give her a little lesson on what hypnosis really was, and then each time she came, each month for physical examination, I'd give her a little session. So I had her very well trained and relaxed. There's no mystery about hypnosis, Jack.
Oh, hypnosis is in effect, from your point of view, meditation.
It's allied to it.
Allied to meditation.
Yes, it is.
I am now in a deep
Yes.
sound hypnotic sleep.
Now you're doing it, you see.
I am now in a deep sound hypnotic sleep.
Yes,
Never again will I enjoy the whiff of a cigarette.
that's right.
And that's a lie. I am now in a deep sound hypnotic sleep. Now, I'm not trying to make a foolishies of you at all.
Yeah,
I believe in hypnosis. But I've always been suspicious of it from the point of view.
Well, I was suspicious of
I'm
it.
sure that evil people with evil intentions over weak-minded others could make them do things their subconscious would let them, but not their conscience.
Oh, but that's perfectly true. You're not being funny when you say that. That's true.
I know, I'm not
It's
trying
deadly
to be.
dangerous, too. I'm sure some of these cults, are using hypnosis very widely.
Yeah, it's in a form of brainwashing.
Yes, it is.
Now, you've seen a lot of changes since you came to Canada. When?
1955.
Where did you first, Dr. Morris Gibson, practice medicine in Canada?
In Okotoks, Alberta.
Where is Okotoks?
It was then 25 miles south of Calgary, a little town of
It still is.
No, it's a bigger town now. There must
But
be
it-
5,000 people there now.
But it's still 25 miles south of Calgary.
No, it's not. It's only 15 miles south of Calgary now. The city limits of Calgary have gone out. Calgary is merely a suburb of Okotoks.
How long, many people lived there then?
680 to be precise.
Must have made you fortune in your first
Oh,
year of
sure.
medical practice.
I think my wife and I made under $3,000 in our first income tax year, gross.
That was both of you?
Yes.
You're both doctors?
We're both doctors. But we loved it. People were marvelous. That's what made the difference.
I've raised a few. Well, you're suggesting people in Vancouver Island don't have the warm
Oh,
friendliness
yes,
of
they
people in
do.
Okotoks?
Oh, yes, they do. But Okotoks is rather special.
Yeah. Now, pig farms. Now, I've run
Yeah.
a few sheep in my day.
Yes.
What, in the name of goodness of the man of your cultural background, brought you to raising pigs?
Well, they're very interesting animals. They're very intelligent animals. It was a challenge, and I got I had £1,000 saved, you see, and my bank manager said we should do something better with it than just have it in the bank at 3% or whatever. So he said you should invest it. So like a fool, I invested it in this little pig farm. But I had my £1,000 worth of fun out of it.
Did you make any money on it?
Well, I got all my money back, and it's a big outfit now in East Yorkshire. It's a very big outfit.
And there you are seeing people in your what do you call it, surgery?
Yes.
Your
They didn't get the same medicine, you understand.
in the mornings and afternoons, then you go and visit your friends, the pigs, at night.
Indeed I did, yes.
Oh no, I had pigs.
And they could take sick too.
And needed good medical treatment.
Oh yeah, well they got it.
Were you at one time tempted to become a Harriet instead of a Gibson, a vet instead of a doctor?
No, I never wanted to be a vet. That was something that I wasn't really interested in, although I've always been interested in animals. And actually in Okotoks, they didn't have a vet, so they used to call me up, and I had treated horses and cows, but until they managed to get the vet down from Calgary, I must say I kept to myself as much as I could.
Now, I've got to confess that I haven't had a chance to read your book yet. Any medical stories you want to tell me? No.
Well, no. Do you
Yeah,
want?
go on.
All right. Well, there's one, you see, which I think I came into medicine when the whole scene of medicine was changing. You know, in 1932, 3, 4, you could die of blood poisoning in 2 days. I saw a surgeon nick his finger at an operation, 35 years old, wonderful young chap with 2 little kids, nicked his finger taking out a septic appendix, gangrenous appendix, and in 2 days he was dead.
What year would that be?
About 1934.
Hold on for a wee bit more with Dr. Morris Gibson. One man's medicine after the break. One Man's Medicine, a book by Dr. Morris Gibson, now retired in Vancouver Island. You were just telling me something that I'd forgotten, although I had a brother who died of diphtheria who would never die again from diphtheria.
That's right.
Although I'm afraid that there's a chance of it breaking out because people don't take their shots anymore.
Exactly. Polio the same.
You know, lots of mothers out there don't protect their kids properly because they've never seen the ravages of these uncontrolled diseases.
That's dead right.
Now, you were telling me about this young surgeon.
Well, that was one instance, but you know...
No, tell me that one again. I want to hammer that home. He was 35.
He was 35. He was operating. He nicked his finger while he was operating. The knife and his scalpel went through his rubber glove, and he died of blood poisoning in 2 days. We had no penicillin. We had no sulfa. And my little story is about the Victoria Infirmary, Glasgow.
Mm-hmm.
And there was
I saw my first dead body, as a matter of fact, but that's another story.
Dr. Alexander Glenn was a wonderful professor of medicine there, a marvelous teacher. And he wasn't a youngster, man in his 60s. And in these days, you know, spinal meningitis was 80% fatal.
Killer.
8 children out of 10 would die of spinal meningitis. And we saw this little girl brought in. And, you know, we students, I was then a young medical student, we realized she had about 3 or 4 days to go. And Dr. Alexander Glenn sat up with that kid all that one particular night. And I went in early in the morning. I came in from my hometown, went straight to the ward, and the ward sister said, "You've got to go down and see Dr. Glenn." So I went down, and I thought, and she said, "He's been there all night." Now, a man in his 60s sat with this little girl, and I walked in behind the screens. You know, these huge, long Glasgow wards were like 40 people in a ward, no privacy.
Beds down the middle.
Dreadful. So I walked in, and Dr. Glenn came out and met me. He said, "It's absolutely marvelous, Gibson." He said, "This child is better. Come and look." And you know, they used to get dreadfully stiff necks with meningitis, very, very high fever. You couldn't bend the neck, and the neck was bending. And he said, "This is clinically a tremendous improvement since yesterday." And I said, it's a miracle. "No," he said, "it isn't a miracle, Gibson. It's a new drug. It's something called sulfonamide." And he said, "You may not have seen a miracle, but you have seen the passing of the future of medicine from the hands of us doctors to the hands of the biochemists."
That would be M&B 693 or
M&B
something?
next 693, exactly.
That would be, when would that be? The early 40s?
1937.
They had it out there.
Oh, we had it in 1937, and then penicillin didn't come in, which was, of course, the miracle drug of all miracle drugs, really, and still the best, probably. Came in, we managed to get use of it about 1946.
So therefore, in a space of between 5 and 10 years, all these dreadful childhood and adult killers.
Had gone.
Any form of infection, really?
Yes.
Any form of septicemia,
That's
poisoning.
right. That doctor would never have died today. Would have casually, or he would have casually taken a dozen or two pills of penicillin, he'd have been better.
Yeah.
We lost so many promising lives in these days. And, you know, young doctors even today, when I was teaching at university, they didn't understand that this is the way life was. It was very hard.
I'm glad you mentioned that, though, because I'm very fearful that nowadays you'll see every now and again a case of diphtheria here, a case of diphtheria there. And I don't think you can impress on people what would happen if everybody stopped taking the shots
That's
and
right.
the carrier appeared.
That's right. Well, polio, I think, is
Yeah.
one instance where people can be careless, and then we could have trouble.
That was what they used to call infantile paralysis.
Well, I remember the days in 1953-4 in Hull when we had an outbreak of that, and you could go and see a child that had allegedly a cold that night, and in the morning it couldn't move either leg, or it couldn't breathe, or something of the sort.
And there was really very little you could do except
Nothing.
the iron lung bit.
That's right. But now you see the Salk Institute produced polio vaccine, and I really think that people don't realize the tremendous benefits medical science has given.
So your book deals with the kind of funny, touching things that happen in the course of medicine.
Delivering babies at home and in Glasgow.
Oh, but women don't have their babies, apart from a kind of vague movement in the 60s when they all wanted to have their babies in teepees. Surely you wouldn't recommend women have babies at home.
Oh, I wouldn't. But there's a big movement now to have babies at home, and you know...
Because of cost. No?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, this business with the kind of...
Yeah.
Are you for it or against it?
Absolutely against it.
Why? If a woman's healthy and her husband's there and you've got a pot of boiling water.
Now, you're inciting me.
I know I am, deliberately.
Right. Well, let me give you my reasons. It's a free country, more or less. And if some girl wanted to have her baby at home, I wouldn't stop her, but I would say to her, Mrs. So-and-so, I'm not going to be involved. Because the trouble is, Jack, that in 9 cases out of 10, you don't need a doctor, you don't need a nurse, you don't need anybody. But in the 10th, dreadful things can happen. You can have an unsuspected twin. You can have a prolapsed birth cord, terrible thing. You can have a baby coming bottom first instead of head first. If you have twins, unexpected twins, the death rate in delivering twins is 10 times greater than that of delivering a normal baby.
Unexpected twins.
Unexpected twins. Well, if you try to deliver twins at home, you're asking for trouble. And of course, out here in Canada, the great thing is girls think they should have their babies at home, but we used to have something called the flying squad, which was great. Came from the local hospital, ambulance equipped with blood, a young specialist in obstetrics and so on. It was great as long as the flying squad was at your end of the city, but if it was at the other end of the city and busy, you were in real trouble.
You were in real trouble.
Now, I think there are some criticisms that are valid about the way we deliver babies. People are scared to death of tubes and instruments and things in hospitals. And I've said for years our places in hospitals where they deliver babies should be more like home. Having a baby is a very normal procedure. It's not an illness.
I thought the way to deliver babies was underwater or something. I can't watch these things on television. Remember that caper about?
Yes. Yeah, well, that's, as far as I'm concerned, that's a caper.
A caper?
Yes.
Listen, back to your success story,
sir.
Morris. How old are you now, 55?
No, I'm not. I'm 66.
66?
Yes.
So you throw away a book, you write it yourself on your own little portable typewriter.
I don't even have a typewriter. I prefer to write longhand.
But you're a doctor, nobody could read your longhand.
Oh, yes, I'm a good longhand writer. Even my wife says that, Jack.
Tell me the success story of your book. Where is it going? How is it sold?
Well, I wrote it, we sent it to Collins. Collins took it. They published it a year ago in a hardback, and then it was sold out quite quickly. And now they've decided they're going to put it in a soft cover, $7.95, published by Collins, and it's also being published in the UK and in the United States.
All these years you wasted your time practicing medicine when you... Oh, no, well, if you hadn't practiced
no.
medicine,
I couldn't,
you
no,
couldn't have
no,
written the book.
That's right. It's been great fun writing it, though. I wrote it for fun, but I never thought it would quite do this, must say.
Did you go to a good school?
I went to Worcester High School.
I see. That
Now,
accounts for...
that's a good school, but it's not the kind of good school you're referring to, or is it?
Oh, except that you've lost your accent and I haven't.
I haven't lost my
have
accent.
so too.
I have not.
One man's medicine. My recommendation, my prescription for you is go home tonight, relax.
You do it.
Think happy thoughts.
Jack,
and
you do it.
sleep peacefully. My thanks to Morris Gibson. I'll be back after the break.
Thank you very much.
My thanks to Morris Gibson. What was I going to say? This is the book the doctors love to hate. I've got all of them. In fact, if I were a real fink, you know, which I'm not, what I could do is take phone calls and tell you what your doctor made in 1972, and then look him up here and tell you it made in 1982. But I wouldn't do that, because I well know, I've been so brainwashed by the odd doctor I see, professionally and or socially, that person reading this data should understand that they provide to the medical profession only a record of gross, or is it gross? Gross. 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 How would you know, Reuben? Gross payments. Since practitioners must pay the expenses of their practice out of this gross amount, no calculation of a practitioner's net income can be made from such figures. No conclusions can be drawn from these figures about the relative net income of any practitioner. So I can't do that. Except that everybody around here has been checking the doctors over the past 10 years. Now, you're not allowed to look at these books. What am I going to do next? You know, this is my second last program before I stop for Christmas holidays. And there's a visitor here this morning, whom we shall dispose of next. And his name is Leon... No, don't show him yet. Leon Tucker. No, it's not Leon Tucker. It's Leon Bibb of Bibb and Tucker. After the break. I'm in a bit of a gay, don't misunderstand me, a gay mood this morning. Gay means happy, light, joyful, and all the rest of it. And my old buddy Leon Bibb, I used to see a lot of Leon Bibb when my other old buddy, now late and lamented, Wasserman, was around. But I haven't seen Leon for years.
Every once in a while we run into each other.
That's right.
Yeah.
In very reputable places.
Obviously.
Nothing but the best.
That's right.
Leon, you've got a show coming up for Christmas.
It's the second...
First, no, enough. How long have you been in Canada?
12 years.
12 years.
12 years on November the 4th, and some friends got together and gave me a 12-year party.
12-year party. That's good. Now, what are you doing for Christmas?
The second annual multicultural, we changed the word a little to multicolorful, because multicultural is a tough word. But it's the second annual multicultural holiday festival for children.
It's not truly multicultural.
Well, it's an attempt to involve
You
us.
didn't invite me to perform.
I'm going to perform in a kilt. You didn't know that, did you?
No, I certainly did not. Will you be wearing trews under your kilt?
Absolutely, just as traditional Scots would wear the kilt, I would wear it.
Well, they don't wear trews under the kilt.
I would not wear trews.
So you'll not be wearing trews under the kilt.
I hope the children don't understand about trews, that's all. It's for children, I'd wear trews.
Of course,
I would
of course
wear
you wear
trews.
trews.
But it's an effort to involve as many of the other ethnic groups and what they do at the holiday time. We are trying to present some of that each holiday season.
Where are you putting it on?
At the Queen Elizabeth Theater at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And
when?
hopefully,
When?
next Saturday, the 18th. And if it's sunshiny like this, they can be involved out on the plaza and in the lobby before it starts at 1 o'clock.
What groups are you using?
The Anaheim Dance Theater is going to recreate circus, and Jamie Zakadakis,
Not Jamie Zakadakis.
Jamie
No kidding.
Zakadakis.
That's Mrs. Zakadakis' boy.
That's
isn't
right,
it?
that's right. He's putting together a group of 14 dancers, and they're going to do a traditional New Year's Eve Greek dance, Russian troika.
Now, they wear the kilt.
They do. They do.
I forget what you call a Greek kilt.
Are you going to let me tell you all those other dances they're
tell
going to
me.
do?
Okay, Jimmy
Because that's-
Zakadakis.
Yes, and we're going to do a Caribbean Santa Claus in a white linen suit and a
Caribbean.
Panama
I thought
hat.
it was Caribbean.
Caribbean
Caribbean what?
Santa Claus in a white linen suit and a Panama hat.
Mm-hmm.
And Almeida Speaks is going to sing some songs.
Alameda Speaks, the
And
great old singer. Oh,
great.
did I say old? I didn't mean that.
She's
the
a
great
marvelous,
singer.
marvelous young
She's
singer.
been around a long. There I go again.
There you go
Alameda
again.
Speaks. I
She's
knew Alameda
Alameda
Speaks. I knew
and,
Alameda Speaks.
Karen Reimer and some the brass quintet that are made up of members from the Vancouver Symphony Orchestra, and a giant carol along, Stan Keane, a whole bunch of nice people who are going to do some fun things with children and adults, of course. I would like for you to come. You see, you have this reputation of being this, you're the original Scrooge, you know. So if you came, it would really be something. And I'm going to invite you and your family right on air. Like you always get somebody to make a commitment on air, I'm going to make you a commitment.
I'd love to come except for but.
But what? You will be gone where?
I'll be playing golf
Oh no.
at a
That's
place,
the wrong grip. That's first off, it's a wrong grip.
at a place called Cap.
What's that for? You're not supposed to grip like that. You grip over the knuckle like that. That's a much better grip. Are we going to talk about the Multicultural Holiday Festival? Or are we going to talk about golf
I'm going to
grips?
give you an answer.
Okay.
I'll be playing golf at Kapalua on an appealing end of Maui, and I'll be up there every morning, 7:30, 8:15, and I'll play golf with some of the biggest sandbaggers. They're not cheats, they're sandbaggers in this country.
What's
and
your
the
handicap?
Oh, my handicap is my stomach, my state of mind, my arthritis in my right hand,
I
my
tell you
bad
what,
knees.
why don't you come to the festival and then take off for Maui after
No,
that?
I'm going to Maui Monday.
Monday. You're going to miss a marvelous festival.
Now, what I want to know is more about Jimmy Zakadakis.
Well, Jamie,
That's a great name,
That's a
Jimmy
great name.
Zakadakis.
He's a marvelous,
And what
marvelous
is,
dancer.
What is Bibb going to do?
I'm going to sing. I'm going to light the Hanukkah candles. It's the last day of Hanukkah, you know.
Hanukkah.
The
I
18th.
didn't know you were Jewish.
That I can still observe someone's marvelous tradition, though.
I can dance the ora, da di da da, da di da da.
I tell you what, will
da
you be
diddly
the guest
dum.
on the 3rd Annual Multicultural Holiday Festival for Children?
Well, you know me. I'm a liar. I lie a lot.
You can say yes here,
No, I'm not going to say yes here.
or why don't you say yes? And then come and be the guest on I tell you what, we will fly you to Maui if you if you do the 2nd Annual Holiday Festival.
There are occasions when I make a big enough fool of myself on this program with my heavy-handed attempt at humor, and any time I try to make a funny speech, I finish up offending people.
Can I do the last little tag and say it's on December the 18th at 1 p.m. at the Queen Elizabeth Theater, and all those marvelous people are going to be on it
Week Saturday at 1 o'clock.
at 1 o'clock.
How much?
$5 for children,
Not bad.
$7 for adults.
$7 for adults.
Right. $5 for
$5.
children is
Why
the
only
important one.
why only the one performance?
Because it's very hard to sell tickets in this time. That's why, if the box office is absolutely deluged with orders, we will do a second show. That is the truth. We will do a second show.
Yeah, because we don't have any good Christmas shows for
And this one
youngsters.
is a good show. This one should be a really
Who's
good
putting
show.
it on?
A lot of people. I'm putting it on. The Heritage Festival Society is involved. It's the kind of a holiday activity that hopefully will go on year after year. So
Sing-
that's why it would be nice if you would show up.
I can't. I'm going to.
You keep begging off about Maui and playing golf. Does your audience know that you're taking off all this time? Do they?
How old are you?
I'm a child. That's why I can ask silly questions like this.
I'm an old fella. But anyway, Jimmy Zakadakis.
Jamie
Zakadakis.
and there are 14 dances with him.
Alameda Speaks.
Almeida Speaks,
Leon Bibb.
Leon Bibb, Stan Keane.
Who's Stan Keane? Don't
Stan
know. him.
Keane's my friend that plays the piano so beautifully.
Plays the piano.
Yeah. Karen Reimer,
Who's she?
she's a great dancer.
You know, I'm not exactly attuned to the cultural situation.
Oh,
in
yes,
Vancouver.
you are.
No, I'm not.
You beg off like that. But she's a marvelous dancer. And the Vancouver Brass Quintet.
Mm-hmm.
And the McGee High School Choir with conductor John Trepp.
Well, they're good.
They are a good group.
I've actually seen them by
Yes.
accident one day.
Yeah,
They were
they're going to
very
give a
good.
concert too next week. They're marvelous singers.
I thought you were going to come in with a clown costume on us, man.
You frowned on it, and I did. I've got a marvelous clown costume, and as soon as I said that, you made some reference to another show that you saw me on, and you didn't like it. And so I decided I surely was not going to wear a clown suit. What are you smiling about? You remember it, don't you?
No comment. Well, Leon, I'm glad you dropped in this morning because I'm kind of thin for stuff anyway.
Well, we fattened it up a little bit.
No. You deserve a good solid plug. $5 for kids, $7 for adults. By the way, and it's December the 18th at 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock.
What's the name of your doctor? No, don't tell me.
I'm going to tell you.
No, don't tell me.
He's an athletic doctor.
No.
He's an athletic doctor. He will put you on a diet right away. Right away.
You looking for trouble, Bibb?
Yeah, and he'll ask you to run 2 miles a day.
Are you suggesting I'm obese?
No.
Hey?
No. You could tone up a little, that's all.
Very funny guy. Best of luck, Leon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Jack.
much.
Thank you. Have a nice holiday.
Merry
And
Christmas.
don't forget to improve that grip.
And I'll think about you December 1 p.m. at the Queen Elizabeth
My son's
Theatre.
going to give me good vibes, so you do the same. He's in New York, so send me some really good vibes.
Good vibes.
Thank
good
you,
vibes.
Jack.
I'll be back with a free-for-all after Bibb.
Baby, look at me and tell me what you see. You ain't seen the best of me yet. Give me time, I'll make you forget the rest. I got more than me, and you can set it free. I can catch the moon in my hand. Don't you know who I am? Remember my name. Hey, I'm gonna live forever. I'm gonna learn how to fly. I feel it coming together. People will see me and cry. Hey, I'm gonna make it to heaven. Light up the sky like a flame. I'm gonna live forever. Baby, remember my name.
Free for all. You know, the trouble with this program is that we're far too serious, far too much of the time. You know, and I begin to believe some of the things I say, you know. There's a great danger in that. Go ahead, ma'am.
Oh, I see. Scrooge and Leon Bibb says you need conditioning. But anyway, Master Chef, on May the 4th, you gave out a delightful recipe for Welch oatcakes. I caught the tail end of it, and I didn't get all your ingredients, and I sure would like them.
My name is Webster.
I know.
What?
I think you had been over to Scotland or Ireland or somewhere, and on your little program, you said you tasted the best Welch oatcakes you have ever eaten in your life. And one of the ingredients, the most important, was mutton fat or something, besides oatmeal and flour.
You're out your
And you
mind.
had to boil the fat, you said.
No.
The 4th.
No. Welsh oatcakes?
Yeah.
There is no such thing as Welsh oatcakes.
Well, whatever. It was an oat cake.
That's right. I did give a recipe for oatcakes, and it was a big fat Hielandman called
That's right.
McLean, and we did it outside the Craigens Hotel in Scotland after I had interviewed Sir Fitzroy McLean, and he gave me the recipe for oatcakes, and you had to boil the mutton fat, and it was a very simple recipe, and I've forgotten all about it, and I don't know where the film is, and I can't tell you. But you're right.
But it was May 4th.
Oh, and it wasn't Welsh oatcakes, it was Scotch oatcakes.
Okay.
But I'll tell you what I'll do. One of my vast staff of 116 people will get the recipe off the original tape, and if you send in a stamped addressed envelope,
Yes, sir.
I can't afford the 30 cents, we'll send you that recipe for Christmas.
Okay, then.
Next Christmas, but we'll send it.
And thank you.
No, my pleasure.
And have a nice time in Maui.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye. 20 seconds from now, they're going to do something. I'm not quite sure what it is, but I think it's Schneider making a fool of himself again. Because after all, Jane Fonda's in town today, and Fonda can learn a thing or two from a prime physical specimen who works on the Webster show.
Jack, I'm going to take the plunge. You know, I'm about 30 pounds overweight. I smoke, I'm going to quit, and here I am at the Cameron Recreation Center. I've come here to see what this fitness craze is all about. All these people are coming in here to come to fitness first, to dance their way into fitness. To me, it sounds like a really easy thing to do.
It's not easy at first, and it never gets really easy, but it gets a lot more enjoyable. After a while, you start to learn the exercises, you start to see yourself improving, and that's when you get addicted, a positive addiction.
What about the natural high?
That may never come.
What we're trying to achieve is to improve people's cardiovascular fitness, to improve their coordination, their body awareness, strength, endurance, flexibility, all of the components of a well-rounded fitness program. And most of them take about a couple of months to really get the swing of it.
Everybody wants more money. Everybody wants more money. Well, you can go to the bank at 10 o'clock in the morning. Everybody's there without any warning. You can tell by the looks on the faces in the queue. Everybody's there for the same thing as you. Everybody wants more money. Everybody wants more money. Everybody wants more money. Money, honey, I can't get enough.
Take a break. One day I'm going to come on here and not speak. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Jack.
Morning.
Yes, I'd like to point out something I noticed in this last civic election that we just had here in town, that the City of Vancouver voters voted on something that does not exist.
What's that?
We voted on a Cambie Bridge, and if you look at the proper name of the Cambie Bridge, it is not the Cambie Bridge, it's the Connaught Bridge. And we put $6 million out on something that doesn't exist. The council put down on the pamphlet Cambie Bridge, but in legal terminology that would have been wrong.
That was Harry Rankin's fault.
It was just so funny to realize
as a matter of fact,
high-priced
that's
engineers
right.
at City Hall, they couldn't even put down the right name.
I think I remember seeing a plaque on there, the Connaught Bridge.
Aye.
It's there.
Yep.
Well, I was there at a terrible accident in 1948, but I'm not going to tell you about it. Thanks anyway. Go ahead, please.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, I was wondering, is it true that Scotsmen are as cheap as they say they are?
Yes. Go ahead, please.
Hello.
Yes?
Yes, I wonder if you heard of a new bit of PR that Willie Vanderzam has come out with today.
Yes?
The button, Back to Basics, real good.
Right good.
Well,
Real
no,
good.
I think he says real good. That was his faux pas. Remember, he said the children should be able to read real good. And, of course, this illiteracy, which we may excuse the Dutchman for, is now been turned around, tried to make it into some kind of a PR slogan covering up for him. Now, what I feel about this is that the Minister of Education, he should not perpetrate an illiteracy again and again. Now, in teaching practice, one does not give the wrong example or the non-standard example if you're promoting standard English.
That's right.
That's negative teaching, and everybody knows if you say to a class of children, do not do so-and-so, just even in an instruction, somebody will follow that negative instruction.
Yeah, you
probably confront people with this real good, done up, obviously, as if he's selling breakfast food or something or other with a little bit of an illiterate slogan on the Minister of Education, and he's going to sell the thing.
That's
now,
right.
Who's going to pay for this, and what's the money going for? And
Well, I don't know nothing about it. Good morning.
Good morning, Jack.
Mm-hmm.
About 10 days ago, you had a Tory MP on who's going to open a gas station back east.
Bill Dom from Peterborough, Ontario.
Thank you very much.
The metric man.
Yeah, well, as the program, your program progressed, he got on to a discussion of American liquid measures.
Yeah, he got all mixed up about that.
Eh? He sure did.
The U.S. the imperial gallon and the U.S. Gallon. Is it different from the imperial gallon?
Well, he came right out on your program and said that...
But what he meant was feet, yards, and inches. That's what he meant. Be kind to Bill Dom. You know, after all, who knows if the Tories who are ahead in the polls can ever form a government? I'm speechless. After the break, I'll try and regain my tongue. Go ahead from Westwold. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Ebenezer Webster. I would like to wish you and your family this season's greetings because I won't be back here before Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a question for you, and I will hang up after and listen for your answer.
Okay.
Have you honestly quit cigarettes? And the reason I'm asking is I miss your hands in that mad scramble for those cigarettes in between the breaks on the program. And I don't know whether you've realized the power of the hands, but Winston Churchill, or Sir Winston, rallied the nation with the power of his hands by raising two fingers. And our beloved Prime Minister rallied British Columbia by raising one finger and created so many jobs. Now I will hang up and wait for your answer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As a matter of historical reference, Churchill used to give the V for victory sign like that. That's how he did it. That's how he did it. Have I quit smoking? I have reduced my consumption of cigarettes to 1 packet a day. I no longer, except in case of extreme emergency, have one under the desk. I am very proud of my achievement, and I hope to quit it before it quits me. But I'm doing very well, thank you very much. And a Merry Christmas to you too, number. Go ahead, please.
Jack?
Yes.
I looked up my dictionary, which is right under my chair, on the matter of gross or gross. I think you were putting us on.
No, I've always had trouble with that word.
Webster Dictionary, 5th edition, shows only one pronunciation, gross.
Gross. I shall accept that from now on.
Yeah, and I hope you have a nice holiday. Don't bet those guys too much, because I think your handicap's too low.
Well, I don't cheat at golf, but I've been known to keep my handicap higher than necessary when I'm playing sandbaggers.
Yeah, you cheat a little, eh?
No. Adjust. Thank you. Guy knows something about golf. Go ahead, please.
Yes.
Yes, madam.
Mr. Webster,
Yes, madam.
I want to congratulate you on giving up your smoking.
Well, I haven't given it up, but I've cut it down a lot.
But that's a real big step in the right direction. I've never had the opportunity to watch you before. I happened to be home with the flu, so for the past week, your program has been the delight of my day. It really gives me a giggle. I just wanted to say that I think it's a great program, and I want to wish you and your family a very good Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thank you very much. Victoria.
Good morning.
Morning.
I wish you a happy Christmas and a good New Year. And I think you've worked hard for your holiday. And there's one thing, though. I was rather surprised that you didn't detect Dr. Moore's Gibson's accent.
Ah, I did so too.
You were kidding?
I was kidding.
Okay, I'll let you off.
Bye. Go ahead, please.
Morning, Jack.
Morning.
I enjoy your program every morning coming off Graveyard here, but I don't think that exercise will do you any good. It'll kill you, but you're getting a little soft on some of your guests. Criticize a little bit more. Merry Christmas.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead, please.
Good morning.
Morning, madam.
I was really curious to wonder if on Sunday night you happened to see the hour special on the Fifth Estate about the first woman to serve a 25-year sentence without parole.
No, I didn't.
You didn't see that?
No.
Oh, that's a shame because it was quite a show. It was about the Janice Gamble and John Gamble murder that partially took place in Vancouver about 6 years ago. And it was a documentary on her, and the way they presented it, it really made you wonder if she's been unjustly charged with this 25 years.
I'll see if we've got a tape of it, and I'll look at it. And thank you very much for your call, and I'll be back after the break. Heavy program for the end of the season tomorrow. Premier Bennett will be here from 9 until 9:45. And Mark Lalonde will be here from 9:45 to 10:15, then we'll wrap up. That's tomorrow. First Premier Bennett, then Mark Lalonde. Because business is business, even though Christmas is coming up. 9 a.m. precisely. Jim Nielsen and the Doctors on check at midnight precisely. Premier Bill Bennett tomorrow with Webster at 9 a.m. precisely.